I want you to take a second and picture someone. Someone who has this amazing ability, magical even, that every time they speak, you just can't help but roll your eyes. Maybe it's a politician, a colleague, an uncle. It's always an uncle, isn't it? I'm sorry, but you know the one. You disagree constantly, usually about the same topic, and you just can't seem to understand why they think the way they do. So we tend to do one of two things. We argue with them, or we avoid them. My name's Savannah, and I help people to have tough conversations. I've led dozens of workshops on divisive topics like war, immigration, and identity. Conversations people want to have, but they find difficult. Today, I'd love to share with you all what I've learned about turning disagreement, even on the most contentious topics, from something that drives us apart to something that can actually connect us. And the bridge I've found has been curiosity. Now, disagreement is a fact of life, and we all know the rules to avoid it. No politics, no religion. Now, I first learned this rule during an etiquette class at the age of 12, and I remember thinking, well, there goes everything interesting. This is going to be a very quiet meal. From that day on, I made it my mission to break that rule. Not for the sake of rule breaking, but because I genuinely believe it's important that we talk about topics that affect our lives, our choices, and our world. But also, I loved a good debate. If you want to speak the political and economic state of the world, then I was your girl. And if I thought you were wrong about something, then I had to let you know. Not to ridicule you, but because, again, I think it's important that we stand up for what we believe is the truth, that we defend ourselves. But one time, this cost me. I was at a family gathering that ended in tears. And no, it wasn't a funeral. It was a kid's birthday party. So to set the scene, my uncle and I were locked into a debate. I laid my case calmly, defending my understanding of the facts, and it only fueled his frustration, and then mine. The temperature rose, voices escalated, insults flew. And then I realized something. For everyone else in the room, this debate had now become entertainment. I remember feeling my eyes burned as the tears welled. I was horrified. This wasn't a game for me. I was standing up for what I believed in. Heat turned to cold, both of us now too hurt, too distressed, and feeling too misunderstood to continue. I watched as he retreated to his corner of the ring, holding his views closer to his chest than when we began. We never discussed the topic again. In fact, we barely spoke at all. Yeah, there were apologies and the odd, you were right, you told him, but what did I get? Two people avoiding a topic we both cared about deeply, further entrenched in our views, a relationship severed. My need to make my case mattered more than anything else. When we fight to be right, we may win for the moment, but we lose that connection. No politics, no religion still governs our dinner parties, and I get it. Nobody wants to kill the vibe. And what I've learned is that we have this culture, a culture of debate, debunk, and destroy. A culture that we see everywhere. It's on our social media screens, it's on our morning TV screens. Everybody wants to be right. Everyone believes they have the truth. And what this does is it means that it creates a shadow side of silence, suppress, and self-censor. One where people think, well, if I'm not up for a debate, then it's better that I just stay quiet. And I see this all the time. I remember last year, after the horrific murder of 3 young girls in Southport, unrest swept across the UK. I ran a workshop in Liverpool, and a woman told me about just how difficult it was for her to have discussions about the political climate. She's doing amazing work in her community. She was inspiring. But when she would speak to a colleague who had quite ignorant comments, she felt she was too uninformed to challenge them. Now, what I've found is that she thought that she needed to have the perfect argument. And dare I say, she thought that she needed to have all the facts. What she really needed was to find a way to build a connection with this person. Because loud or quiet, when the goal is to be right, the cost is the connection. Connection, Savannah. Why on earth would I want to connect with people that drive me crazy? People that have views irreconcilably different to mine. Well, it's because we need each other. In an increasingly global world, the beauty of difference also brings the inevitability of disagreement. So our go-to tools of argue or avoid will simply not cut it if we want to shape a future that works for all of us. But some of you might be thinking, debate's so important. What about the marketplace of ideas and so on? And you have a point. But the point here is that if we don't learn to connect, how are we going to deal with the problems of the next 10, 20 years together? And to be clear, I'm not asking you to connect with people that mean you harm, people that are intent on burning bridges. If that's the case, then let them. But what I am saying is this. What would it look like if you were the one who took that first step towards building a connection in the face of disagreement? So, how do I stay connected with people and help others to do the same? Well, it's by practicing curiosity. Curiosity being an eager desire to know or to learn about something. Now, I'm aware curiosity doesn't have the best reputation. Rumor has it killed the cat. And I grew up being called too nosy, or as my Jamaican grandmother would joke, you're too fast. But I think we've missed the part. That being that curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. And that satisfaction I found hasn't been in being right, it's been staying connected with people for long enough to learn more. So, here are the 3 ways that I've learned to practice curiosity. Staying curious about myself, staying curious about others, and staying curious about ideas. Number 1, staying curious about myself. Before I even open my mouth to speak, I think, am I able to do this? Like, am I in the right state for this? How is this disagreement making me feel? You see, our nervous system runs something called neuroception, a constant scan for danger, before our thinking brain kicks in. And what this means is it sometimes can't tell the difference between a tiger in the bushes and your uncle at Christmas. So, it's important that we recognize how we find ourselves in this fight or flight mode, attack or avoid. But what we really want is connection mode. For me, it's a pause, a deep breath. For you, it might be something different. The point is that when we stay curious about ourselves, we're more likely to lean in, we build resilience, and we're less likely to shut down. Number 2, staying curious about others. We all want to be understood, but first we must understand. Now, staying curious about others means listening with curiosity. This could look like repeating back what you've heard, so it sounds like what you're saying is, or agreeing with the feeling, even if it's not the reason. I get that, I'm scared too. When we stay curious about others, people are more likely to stay open. They're more likely to listen to what we have to say, and I'll be honest, it takes patience, but it wins you that second conversation. Staying curious about ideas. Oftentimes we tie our opinions so closely to our identities that when people challenge them, we feel attacked. One way to avoid this is by externalizing the disagreement. We see this in narrative therapy pioneered by Michael White and David Epstein. The person is not the problem is the problem. So instead of me saying, I think you're wrong about this, I might say, some people say, insert what I think you're wrong about. And then instead of me versus you, we're now standing side by side, looking at this idea, and it can still be challenged, but you still feel seen. Now, by practicing curiosity in these 3 ways, I have seen the power of still keeping a connection, but still breaking the rules. I still talk politics, I still talk religion, I still disagree. But people come back. They're more likely to ask me about things they never would have considered before. And most importantly, they also practice curiosity with me. In what areas of your life could practicing curiosity help you stay connected with people that you disagree with? Now, you can practice this anywhere, and my personal favorite has to be in taxis. I used to just nod my head when I'd hear something that I disagreed with. You won't argue with the person driving the car, right? But now I pause, I ask, where did you learn that? Tell me more. And then we explore the idea together. So now I don't end journeys with tension, but instead it's us looking at family photos of holidays, the family pet, and with a 5-star rating, of course. Practice this online too. People have responded with outrage to opinions I might have posted, and I could have blocked them. But instead, I asked them a curious question, and believe it or not, many say thank you. Some even ask me a question back, and a few follow. The point is we stayed connected. Parents and teachers, I see this work really well for them too. Many are concerned about the ideas young people are exposed to, and what I've found is that when they stay curious in these conversations, young people are more likely to share more, they're more likely to stay connected because they know the door is still open. The point is you can practice this anywhere, with anyone. And when you do, let me know how it goes. Now, just as I finish, I have one more question for you all. What do you like about yourself? It's a question that I think will help us dig just one step deeper into staying curious about ourselves. Maybe it's your sense of humor, the way that you show up for people, your determination. The point is, when we stay curious about ourselves, we realize something, that when we're in those disagreements where people may feel like they're almost out of character, that actually what's happening is you're losing a part of yourself. Because when the goal is to be right, we lose ourselves. But when the goal is to connect, we bring ourselves. Those parts of you that you like and that others recognize you for, those parts of you that others can connect with, how can we retain those? Well, the next time that you have a disagreement, let go of that need to be right. Choose curiosity over certainty. Choose connection. Stay curious about yourself, stay curious about others, stay curious about ideas. Because loud or quiet, when the goal is to be right, the cost is always the connection. But curiosity is what keeps it alive. Thank you.